Hi, I'm Old Norse specialist Dr. Jackson Crawford. I'm back with another video about a topic in Norse language and myth, and today I want to look at the word rune, which in Old Norse is more or less the same. It's rune. There is a fair amount of misunderstanding and misinformation out there about this word itself, part of which I think comes from misunderstanding about the different stages in that word's development. So what I want to do in this video is just take a quick look at what that word means and what it's used for in Old Norse, what some related words are in Old Norse, and what the meanings are in closely related languages, because the cognate word is present in most of the other Old Germanic languages, and then some potential connections to other Indo-European languages. You will never find absolute certainty about this word. There are a lot of questions about its origin, about its original meaning. So, no doubt I am not going to cover every single person's pet theory here. I just want to present most of the facts and then support that with a little bit of speculation at the end based on those facts. So, if we take a look at this word and its cognates, cognate meaning a word that is descended from the same ancestor word, and other early Germanic languages, the earliest stage we have evidence of comes from about the 300s AD. In the 300s AD, Wulfilas, also called Ulfilas, translated the Bible from Greek into the Gothic language. This is our earliest set of cohesive long texts in any Germanic language. And he uses the word runa, transparently cognate with Old Norse rune, to translate three words in Greek. He translates symbolion, boule, and mysterion. And these words mean a council or council, so both advice and a group of advisors, a plan, and a mystery. It is never used to talk about a letter in a writing system or for writing itself. It mostly has the meaning of, again, advice or a group of advisors. Right about the same time in Scandinavia, in Einang, Norway specifically, we find an early runic inscription, the Einang stone, where the word runo, the cognate of Gothic runa and Old Norse, and Proto-Norse, the ancestor of Old Norse, we find this word used to mean an entire inscription. This inscription reads, or all that's left of it reads, Dagastis runo fahitho, so the remains of some name, painted fahitho runo, singular a rune. Now this inscription is written in runes, in the Elder Futhark, right to left, as Elder Futhark inscriptions are often written. And it appears that the word rune here actually means the entire inscription, not just a letter in the inscription, right? Because it doesn't say runos, which would be the expected plural, which we do see in other inscriptions in Proto-Norse. It says runo singular, so the inscription itself is a, quote, rune. That is not really the case when we get into Old Norse. Now, keep in mind that the timeline here, I have another video where I've talked about the timeline of the Germanic languages, especially Old Norse. I'll link that in a card on the top right here right now. So keep in mind, Proto-Norse, this is the language before, let's say, about 700. Old Norse, archaic Old Norse would be from about 700 to 1100. And then most of our actual documents that inform what we classically think of as Old Norse are written from about 1100 to 1400. So this is hundreds of years later. The word has become rune, with no vowel at the end. The plural is runar. And you virtually never see the singular in Old Norse. It is used in the plural. And most of the time, what it's referring to is plural runar, letters in the runic alphabet. The word also seems to have some residual other uses. For instance, it seems sometimes to mean something like councils, again, always plural. Sometimes perhaps whispers, although that could overlap with councils because, of course, you whisper or you murmur your advice to somebody. So that may not be an independent meaning at all. And in one poem preserved in Old Norse, a poem attributed to Egil Skallagrimsson, who was said to live in the 900s, he says, Ristum rune, So let me carve a rune about an entire inscription. So hearkening back to what we've seen in Proto-Norse, where you can have the word actually mean the whole inscription and not just a letter. Although the prose text of that very same saga does refer to the runes plural that he carves. So this does seem to be just an archaic fossil in Old Norse that has otherwise turned to writing about these in the plural, meaning the letters, not the inscription singular. But it's worth noting that even in Proto-Norse, we have inscriptions from the 500s, 600s that do talk about runos, plural, meaning the letters of the inscription. So it's possible that at Proto-Norse already there was this double meaning. Rune was both the inscription written in runes and the letter of the inscription, or maybe there was a shift somewhere in those centuries between the Einong stone, the 300s, and these later stones, the 500s, 600s. If so, there were still pockets where people used rune to mean the whole inscription, into maybe the 900s if we can trust the dating of that poem by Egil Skallagrimsson. All right, let me look also at the West Germanic languages where you see the same word or the cognate word. In Old English, it's rune. This also has the meaning like in Old Norse. It means a letter of writing, typically plural. This is not used, by the way, just for the runic alphabet, but in Old English and a little bit less often Old Norse, you can see the word runes used to talk about the letters of the Roman alphabet. Does somebody know his runes? Might mean, does he know how to write the alphabet that Latin is written in? Rune in Old English also has some residual senses of counsel, whisper, and things like that as well. Old Saxon runa, so Old Saxon is not the same thing as Old English or Anglo-Saxon. Old Saxon was the written vernacular language of northern Germany in the latter half of the first millennium AD. Here we see runa used in the singular with much the same sense as is used in Gothic, so a council, a meeting of advisors. In the Heliond, the most famous remnant of Old Saxon literature, that was the only meaning that I could find for it, in fact, and I didn't find it in the Saxon Genesis. In Old High German, runa appears to be primarily associated with whispering or murmuring. Consider its relation to modern German, raunen, to whisper or to murmur. My German accent is terrible. Now, there are also some other words in early Germanic languages that are probably related to rune. The best contenders for relatives of the word rune include runi and runa. These are a masculine and feminine form, respectively, in Old Norse. This is a companion, a confidant. So, for instance, a wife is the runa of her husband. You can also use a kinning runi for a king or god, and then something that he's associated with, the Rune of Norway or whatever for the king of Norway, the sort of confidant or friend of Norway. Rune is probably also related based on the system of vowel alternations we call ablaut, wherein a root can have certain different vowels in different manifestations of its root meaning in different words. That's the best way I can think to explain it in 10 seconds. So probably we can connect it to the words raun and then the verb related to that, roina. Raun is a test, or it's an experience. So, and then roina is to test, or to experience, to try. This actually becomes a modern Icelandic reina, which means to try. So, and then raun in modern Icelandic roin is more like reality. So this might be related to this old word of, this old meaning that we see in Gothic and in Old Saxon of a council, right? Because of course, if a council gets together, one thing they might be doing if they are advising, say, a king or some other leader is testing different evidence. They might even be acting as sort of a court-like body. So the notion that a word for to test might be related to this root is not too alien. We also see in Old English a derivative form yaruna with iumlaut, meaning, or translating Latin arcana, so things that are sort of secret knowledge. We also see a word, and that also appears in Gothic, the equivalent form, Rune, by the way, to mean just a council. And then we also see words for a counselor in Old English and Old High German form from this root. The Old English is Jaruna, and the Old High German is Geruna. All right. So, taking first the question of what physical form this word might come from, if the connection with Rune and Rune is correct, then this may go back to a Proto-Indo-European root, Reun or Rune. This sort of class 2 ablaut, you can have a root in either form, at least as it comes into Germanic. It is quite possible that this is then cognate with Greek ereunao. If my German accent is bad, I don't even want to know how bad my Greek accent is, but that's the word. This is, I experiment, I research, and that certainly connects well with the meanings of Rune and Rune. And it's also possible this could be connected to Old Irish Rune, which means secret. This also still in modern Irish means secret, and it also can mean beloved. Consider the song Siúl a Rune, walk my love, my beloved. So again, you're left with a word where the potential cognates in other Indo-European languages are thin. I mean, this one Greek word, this one Irish word, there's also a Welsh word that might be connected to the Irish word hren or hren. I can't tell just by looking at it if it's a short or long vowel. That means more like essence. But these are very thin cognates. It's not incredibly clear what the path of meaning has been for the word in the Germanic languages. You know, at the same time that we have Gothic using it to mean mostly counsel, we have Proto-Norse using it to mean writing. And then, of course, in Old Norse and Old English, we see it very often to mean writing. In fact, in Old Norse, it's mostly used in the plural to mean these letters of the runic alphabet. But then you have, you know, these other meanings. Old Saxon keeps this meaning of counsel like Gothic does, and that's its main or only meaning. Even in Old High German, it develops to whisper. Again, the whisper being connected to a counsel isn't too surprising because you might whisper or murmur your counsel or advice. But what exactly has gone on is a big question, and particularly how did this word, which might have originally meant something counseled, how did that come to mean something written at all, right? If these words are indeed not just homonyms, and they probably aren't, it sort of violates Occam's razor to assume that there's two words that were pronounced Rune in Proto-Germanic where we don't have to assume it. Anatoly Lieberman, in a recent book called In Prayer and Laughter, has a chapter on this word where he suspects that the original meaning is counsel, and that the sense of a mystery or secret that you also see in Gothic comes from the fact that, of course, what's discussed in private in a council of advisors is private or secret. And then something is revealed by them, right? A counselor advisory group is sort of a governmental body. When it is revealed by them, then that is, it's no longer a secret. It's something revealed, just like when you write something down, it is revealed, right? It seems a little bit strange to think that a word for writing would be connected to a word for disguising something, because of course the word for the purpose of writing is to communicate a message. Maybe only to certain people, but it's still to communicate a message to those people. Still, no one has really totally satisfactorily explained this. The development to whisper is interesting, and again, the possibility that that's just connected to the meaning for counsel because a counselor advisory body whispers among themselves. That could be connected to the meaning of writing because when you whisper, other people can't hear what you're saying, just like when you're writing, other people can't hear what you're conveying in words by carving or writing. That's a possible semantic pathway. But again, there's no certainty about this. Anybody who tells you that they're certain about the origin of this word and its original meaning is not actually certain about it, I guarantee you. For a nice big survey about this topic, I would recommend reading that chapter in the new book by Anatoly Lieberman, In Prayer and Laughter. It's a little hard to get a hold of, but Anatoly is a fantastic scholar, and his work is always interesting and enlightening. There's also a good book in English called Runes, a Handbook by Michael Barnes. That's a great place to start if you're interested in really doing some serious study of runes. And I also have some other videos on this channel where I sum up some of the basic information about runes, like the names of the runes, which runic alphabets go with which, and other things. I make all this information available for free because I don't think that knowledge is anyone any good locked in an ivory tower or behind archaic language. But if you like what I'm doing and you want to help me continue it, I do have a Patreon page with rewards for supporters. And I also hope that you'll check out my translations of the Old Norse myths and sagas. For now, I am wishing you the very best.